When Asta's mother raised a devil in Treble, it led to that devil being sealed inside of a grimoire, and that devil grew, and it looked like a dark version of Asta, giving him access to a crazy power within the weapon that would attach to his soul. When Ichigo's mother was attacked by a hollow, she would acquire the genetics of a Quincy hollow hybrid, which would follow as to why white would appear within Ichigo's soul weapon, the Zanpakuto, an evil-looking version of Ichigo. Yeah, did you not realize that Asta is a character that is heavily inspired by Ichigo? Well, it makes sense because the creator of Black Clover has stated that he is writing a manga that is heavily inspired by Bleach. With Asta's manga going on for several years now, he has become a pretty strong character within shonen. And in today's video, I want to go over, can Tabata's creation face up against his own inspiration? Has Asta become strong enough to no longer stand within Ichigo's shadow? Bleach has become one of my favorite series of all time. I constantly see both of these series discredited for the success. Bleach has over 100 million sales in its manga. That doesn't compare to Naruto or One Piece, but it's still a raging success that gets downplayed. And while Black Clover's 20 million sales is less than Jujutsu Kaisen or My Hero Academia, it still is very impressive. On the same note, the scaling of both Bleach and Black Clover are often vastly underrated by the anime-manga community. Pair that with Tabata's love for Bleach, I thought this would be a fun matchup. To clarify, I'll be using the strongest versions of Ichigo and Asta that we currently have. As of right now, Black Clover has released 373 chapters, so I'm only scaling Asta up to that point. Whereas for Ichigo, I'll be scaling him to his max power in Bleach, which we only know that his power is like 1000-year Blood War levels of power. We don't know how much stronger he's gotten yet within that Hell Arc time skip. And I will say right now, guys, there will be some manga spoilers for both series, so you've been warned. Probably the most important question regarding this topic would be spirit energy or Reiryoku versus anti-magic. How would they interact with each other? Would anti-magic be able to nullify spirit energy and the abilities made by it? Also, could Asta even see Ichigo? Because in Bleach, you could not see hollows or Shikigami unless if you have a certain level of spirit energy to be able to see them. Asta, though he does have a soul, he doesn't have spirit energy. He has anti-magic and he has ki, which is a composition of different life energies. But what we do know is that Asta can see souls. After the defeat of the Word Devil Zagrid, Asta did a conjoined effort with Licht and William to end the reincarnation magic happening across the Clover Kingdom. In doing so, it removes the elven souls from the human bodies. And when the souls leave the body, not only can Asta see the souls, but pretty much everybody there can as well. So, in Black Clover, anybody can see souls. This should in theory mean that if a Hollow or a Soul Reaper showed up in the Clover Kingdom, Asta would be able to see them. And if you want to say that, okay, well, he shouldn't be able to see them anyways, we do know that Hollows and Soul Reapers do affect the physical world that they are in. They do leave a presence behind, which is something that Asta could probably pick up on when using Ki. Ki is sensing the different life energies and how life energy is affected around him. He can even sense the Ki of inanimate objects, things like falling boulders. Proof of this is Asta's little scuffle with Gildre, who made himself invisible and intangible. But Asta could still see him because of his ki. Also, Asta, with his eyes closed, was able to react to an attack from Gauche thanks to his ki. If Asta is in the general vicinity of Ichigo, he should be able to see him because he can see souls. And he should be able to see how the souls interact with the physical world. But just because Asta can see or even perceive Ichigo does not mean that he can actually interact with him or harm him. This is something that has enough substantiation in the manga that I would say actually, yeah, anti-magic could harm Ichigo. It can touch Ichigo. We don't know a lot about the soul in Black Clover. We just know that the soul is the source of life, mind, and magic. But the soul in of itself is not magic. But despite that, Asta is able to actually invade Patri's soul space, interact with Patri's soul physically, and bully him. This right here, this is Patri's soul, and Asta is doing this to him. Lucius also has soul powers, as he has access to soul magic, and Asta is able to nullify soul magic with his anti-magic, as Lucius tries to touch him, and he cannot manipulate him, which both of these I think give a lot of credence to Asta's anti-magic, being able to nullify spirit energy within Bleach, if we are using verse equalization. We also know that forbidden magic curses affect the soul and actually reshape the body, the soul, magic, and even the physical world, and Asta can still resist or even outright nullify these curses. In verse equalization, Reiryoku and magic power would likely be equated. If you disagree with this, that's fine. I will touch on that later, because at the very least, even without verse equalization, Asta's powers would be able to work on Ichigo and harm him. Anti-magic could actually touch Ichigo. It just might not have the property to nullify it if you're not using verse equalization. Because don't forget that Asta's ability isn't just anti-magic. The anti-magic is its own form of energy that acts as a power that makes him stronger and faster. He he still produces incredibly powerful physical forces. It's actually stated in the very beginning of the series that anti-magic only nullifies the spell, but not the physical force that spell produces. That means that any spell that Asta outright negates and completely nullifies, Asta actually has to scale to it, at least in a large way. I made a whole video on the subject here. So what that means is that Asta still needs to pack a punch, and definitely needs to be fast enough to go against Ichigo. Also, we got two swordsmen here. That is probably going to play a factor. Who's the better swordsman? So we'll be talking about that as well. But first, I'm going to talk about the power scaling and the attack potency. And of course, I'm going to be using current Asta again. At the time I'm writing the script, there have only been 373 chapters of Black Clover. So if Asta gets any more crazy feats after this, sorry, I don't have future sight, at least not all the time. But that doesn't mean that as of right now, Asta is not incredibly powerful. He is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated characters in Battle Shonen when it comes to power. I'm going to nip that in the butt right now. I'm going to give a bit of a warning here for both Asta and Ichigo. I'm going to delve into their higher interpretations of power. The reason for that is that it's going to be a lot quicker to discuss. We don't have to use multiple calculations or stack a bunch of chain scaling to calculate who is stronger. Whether you lowball them both or highball them both, it doesn't change the outcome really. So I'm not going to go over every single point for Asta's attack potency. You can check out this video if you want a more in-depth discussion, but I'll still cover a fair amount here. But anyways, Dorothy can create an infinite space with her glamour world. This has happened multiple times throughout the series, making it consistent. She fights a copy of herself, and that fight actually destroys the realm they are in, which would mean that they are relative in power to their infinite-sized space they create. There are implications of other characters that scale above Glamour World too, and some are strong enough to destroy the realm. Yami destroys Glamour World with his Dimension/Equinox, which is a mixture of both attack potency and hacks. Remember, yes, the hacks part is him cutting the world in half, but the actual attack potency part, the force part, is that he has enough force with his slash to cause the split universe to crumble and collapse. Think of it like if you're cutting a pizza. If you cut a pizza with a pizza cutter layered in spatial magic, sure, it's going to cut through it like butter, but if you slam that pizza cutter down hard enough, the pizza will explode and go everywhere. Anyways, Yami says that Death Thrust is actually more powerful than his Dimension Slash, and it's a spell he absolutely needed against Dante. And Asta scales well above Death Thrust, as Death Thrust only works on 80% Dante, and there's just so many ways to scale Asta well above that. And as I said earlier, there are a plethora of statements of characters scaling directly above the Glamour World. For example, Dorothy even thinks that in the middle of the time skip, her dimension would not be powerful enough to contain the devil, and that it would just destroy it if she tried. The Dark Triad, who each were possessed by devils, all ended up being far stronger than what the Heart Queen and the Water Spirit had expected the devil to be, which means that the Dark Triad would all scale above Glamour World, and Asta with just his devil arm would scale to 80% Dante, and only got far stronger thereafter. So scaling above someone who can create or destroy infinite spaces, that qualifies for high universal power. There's even more support for it, as there is the Tree of Qliphoth scaling. The Tree of Qliphoth in Black Clover is the size of Hell, Hell being confirmed to be a space-time that is the shadow of the living world in terms of size. The Black Clover living world is referred to as a universe. That would make Hell the size of a universe, making the Tree of Qliphoth a universal-sized tree. It's actually stated that Asta can destroy the Tree of Qliphoth with brute force and his anti-magic. Though a lot of the fandom will question the idea if he could actually do it because it never happened, but even though we don't see it directly, Lucifero is actually strong enough to forcefully fuse with the Tree of Qliphoth so that he can manifest, and he absorbs all of the tree and its power. And Asta, with his True Devil Union, scales above Lucifero. 50% Lucifero was stronger than the Tree of Qliphoth. Lucius absorbed all 100% of Lucifero, then amplifies that power, but Asta in his base form can damage that amped Lucius, who is stronger than Lucifero, making the universal Asta arguments even more consistent. But when it comes to Ichigo's attack power, it's pretty consistent that the three major realms in Bleach, the Living World, the Soul Society, and Wakamundo, are all universes. As we know, the Living World in Bleach is just our universe in modern day, and Wakamundo and Soul Society are realms relatively the same size. We see Squad Zero are so strong, they cannot use their Bankai, or they could destroy all three of the realms. In fact, several of these Squad Zero members have to kill themselves so that one of them can actually use their suppressed Bankai. And just by activating their suppressed Bankai, they are still violently shaking all three of these universal realms, which makes it consistent that Squad Zero could destroy multiple universes. Ichigo scales above Squad Zero by the end of the series. On top of this, the Soul King and his divine power turn the original, singular, supersized universe into three separate universes. This is a major plot point, and Yuhaba is actually stated to be doing the opposite, where he would turn these three universes back into one. Ichigo can damage Ryo, the Soul King, and can damage Yuhaba even after he absorbed the Soul King. He just blatantly scales to Yuhaba. It was more so Yuhaba's hacks that were an issue for Ichigo, but again, Yuhabok planned to merge the 3 universes together, and while a lot of people complain about Bleach cosmology and say that it can't be low multiversal because they're just 3 fractions of one universe, but again, the living world is our universe. That is a universe, and it's 3 universes, one being our size, combined together. That's low multiversal. It's also stated on numerous occasions that Ichigo would be an ideal replacement for the Soul King, which would mean that he would have to have that power naturally as well. While attack power is incredibly important, Perfect Cell taught all of us that it is not really going to matter if you cannot actually land that bevy of power on your opponent. Poor future Trunks. Bleach has impressive speed metrics, with certain abilities like Sero stated to be light, and even many different calculations getting characters to faster than light or even massively faster than light without the use of Seros. If Seros are granted the speed of light, then Bleach gets thousands of times the speed of light pretty early in the series, and don't forget the confirmed speed multipliers that exist like Bankai's or Shikai's. Though there are some issues with Seros being light speed. For one, while they are confirmed to be light, there are many light-based abilities in fiction that are not light speed. And if we're going to be fair, well, Gauche has mirror magic, which is confirmed to use reflected light as his attacks. This would make Gauche, even as a young child, well before the beginning of the series, being light speed, which would significantly upscale the speed of Black Clover, just as it would for Bleach, making Asta many times the speed of light in Chapter 1. But when it comes to consistency, light speed and even faster than light becomes consistent in Black Clover just 50 chapters in, as we have light magic that is outright stated to be light speed, not once, not twice, not thrice, but 4 times. It's also stated that an increase in magic power leads to higher speeds for these light users. And with this, we have some crazy calculations. Mereoleona whoops Raya, and Raya was far faster than Patri. Yet Asta blitzes her magic from the end of this room, putting chapter 146 Asta's base speed at 188 times the speed of light. In the current final saga, Jack the Ripper did a slash that traveled so far that we can see the slash on the Noble Realm from the curvature of the Earth. So Jack's slash traveled hundreds of kilometers in the same time frame that it took Morgan's light to move just 80 meters. That's over 5,000 times the speed of light, and I've seen calculations of this that get it to over 15,000 times the speed of light. Morgan barely dodged this attack, and the Lucius clones should be at least close to the speed of the Paladins, like Morgan. And Asta in his base form can keep up with their speed, making current base Asta easily many thousands of times the speed of light, and that's leaving out many multipliers and chain scaling that can get it much higher. I've gotten it to billions or even trillions of times the speed of light in previous videos. You can argue that both Ichigo and Asta have infinite speed, as Ichigo would have to have speed scaling comparable to characters who can create or destroy multiple universes in finite time, and Asta scales well above Dorothy, who dodged Yame's Dimension Slash that destroyed the Glamour World universe in finite time as well. And while destroying 3 universes in finite time is significantly more impressive than just one, the Black Clover feat takes place way earlier in the series than Bleach's, which should offset that balance. So if you lowball both speeds, then Black Clover is much faster. If you highball both speeds, Black Clover is still faster, but not by as much. On the other hand, Bleach is much stronger. High Universal is impressive, but it does not compare to being able to destroy multiple universes. One thing I want to add is that it does seem that a lot of people do not like the universal metas for either Black Clover or Bleach, but as I said, it doesn't really matter either way. If you lowball Black Clover, it's planetary for all the destroy the world statements that are paired with actually calculated feats, like this small planetary calculation from Lumiere, where he splits a planet-sized cloud in 7 seconds. Whereas the realms of Bleach would still be at least multi-solar system in the low-end meta for Bleach, which would still put Bleach at way stronger than Black Clover. So if we give Asta a massive speed advantage, but give Ichigo the massive power advantage, who wins? Well, there are still other key factors that come into play. One of them is stamina, because if Asta has to consistently outspeed Ichigo to dodge his attacks, that means he'll be draining more power at a quicker rate. And while Asta does have superhuman levels of stamina, it is nowhere near the level of Ichigo, who's able to fight Zangetsu within the Dangai for 3 months straight. Another huge factor that I hinted at earlier was who is the better fighter, who is the better swordsman. Contrary to popular belief, Asta is not just some buff dude with a power nullification sword that just throws it around mindlessly. Asta is a really good swordsman. Asta actually trained in swordsmanship from a very young age, though much of it was self-taught, as when he was a little boy he emulated sword fighting by using a stick. But shortly after he received his 5-leaf Clover Grimoire and his first anti-magic sword, he began training with Fonzel, who was a mage that used swords, and he was actually a former commander of the Diamond Kingdom military. He was actually the one in charge of instructing soldiers in the kingdom for sword skills. Despite teaching well over 100 soldiers, his thoughts on Asta was that he was already the second best out of all the people he's ever trained. This scene is from an anime episode which faithfully adapts one of the canon light novels. But keep in mind, this statement from Fonzel takes place between chapters 1 and 2 of the manga, meaning that Asta is already a skilled swordsman before he even joins the Magic Knights. But he continues to meet multiple swordsmen throughout the series and learn from them. He learned from Kyoto, the dancing swordsman, and copied his dancing sword technique with its primary function, making it incredibly hard for the opponent to sense you, even with ki. As Asta, who had ki sensing, could not sense Kyoto when he was using his dancing sword. This dancing sword technique also deflects damage, so that if you were to take a hit while you're doing your dancing technique, you actually don't take the full brunt of the blow. Asta would learn this technique in like 1 page after watching Kyoto do it. He also learned from Licht, who was a sword mage and considered a master swordsman, and he learned by both fighting him and watching him. Obviously, Asta has learned a considerable amount from Yami, who was a prodigy in the Land of the Sun, and is actually even comparable to people who were thought to be strong enough to become the Shogun, which is the Wizard Queen equivalent. The Land of the Sun is basically Japan, and Yami shows multiple EI abilities, which imply that he was trained in the martial art of Ido, or Aijutsu, and has only continued to develop his swordsmanship skills in the many years after he went to the Clover Kingdom. On top of this, Asta actually went to the Land of the Sun and trained with a bunch of swordsmen who would spend their entire lives training by the blade. Even though Asta is statistically equal to Ichigo, at some point, his swordsmanship skill is at least on par with her, showing that he is not just overpowering her, he actually is a good swordsman. Ichigo's own sword skills are nothing to scoff at, as he immediately holds his own and learns from swordsmen who've been training for hundreds or even thousands of years. Ichigo is immediately able to hold his own against Kenpachi, who has fought people who know over 8,000 sword styles. While it can be argued that in reality, a bunch of master swordsmen not being able to significantly outclass a noob like Ichigo means their sword skill is overrated, the same argument could be made for the Land of the Sun. Are they really spending all their time training if Asta is already as good as them? So I think it's just more logically sound to assume that Ichigo really is that good with the blade, and so are the people of the Soul Society, and so is Asta. But if we are being real, Ichigo is likely much more skilled with swordsmanship and can also dual wield just like Asta. There are more abilities to these characters. Ichigo and Asta both get incredibly strong, incredibly fast, even in the middle of fights. So they both have the ability to grow in power and skill. I'd be here all day if I went over every little ability they had. So, going into the fight, there is actually one very important question that decides if this is even a fight at all. That is spirit pressure, or Reiyatsu. Spirit pressure is the force of one's Reiryoku, and it can be used to significantly weaken or even outright nullify the abilities of opponents if it's used on a far weaker one. As I said, Ichigo is far stronger than Asta, but here's the thing. Asta is incredibly resistant to power nullification. An example of this is his battle against Lucius. These time orbs have the ability to shut off your magic power, which is power nullification, yet it didn't do anything to Asta's anti-magic while inside of it, allowing him to move freely. Not only that, but Lucius was far stronger than this version of Asta, as Asta would need to transform to his partial union, which is far more powerful than his full black form or his base, just to essentially stalemate Lucius. And this is a potent power nullification by Lucius. So while in a state far weaker than another character, he resists layered power nullification like it was nothing. It's one of those things where if this were a magic user instead from Black Clover, they are far more likely to fall victim to the nullification of Reiyatsu. So, now that the battle can commence, what happens? Well, Ichigo has some massive advantages. He has much more power, he has more sword skill, and he has a big stamina advantage, while Asta's only real advantage is speed and power nullification. In my opinion, this is a battle of adaptation. Asta adapting to Ichigo's superior sword skill and power, learning from him and growing stronger as the battle rages on. At the same time, Ichigo will do his own adaptation, adapting to Asta's speed and growing faster himself. But Ichigo has the overall advantage, and it's probably not even close. The power gap he holds is wider than the speed gap in Asta's side. In short, Ichigo will overcome the speed gap before Asta does the power differential, and Asta is far more likely to tire out before Ichigo. So in my opinion, Ichigo is going to win almost every time if these two were to fight in 100 simulations. He can win by catching Asta slacking, ending the battle in one blow, or play the long game, adapting to Asta until he can land a killing blow. Asta's only real strategy is playing to aggression, and immediately playing the strategy of weakening Ichigo. Asta has 3+ abilities that weaken his opponents. The Demon Dweller Sword can absorb energy, Causality Break can shut off an opponent's power temporarily, and with Zetten, Asta can increase his power 20-fold and then attack someone's magic power directly. Asta would need to immediately activate Causality Break and separate Ichigo from his Reiryoku, though because of the power gap, it would probably only separate some of Ichigo's Reiryoku. At the same time, Asta would need to spam Zetten after Zetten to continuously attack Ichigo's power directly, weakening him with each slash. At the same time, Asta would need to occasionally sap energy from Ichigo with the Demon Dweller Sword. But this is like a once in 1,000 times chance to happen, maybe more, maybe less. Asta would need to achieve all 3 of these things as part of his strategy perfectly. And even if he did, I still don't know if it's enough, because I don't know if his stamina can outlast Ichigo's stamina, and if he can nullify Ichigo's power fast enough to make him stronger than him. So in the vast majority of scenarios, Ichigo wins, and in most of those victories, it's not even close. With that being said, let me know your thoughts down below. How do you think the battle of Asta vs Ichigo goes? Thank you so much for the support, everybody. This is like one of my first Bleach videos. My plan is to do more Bleach videos in the future because it's become one of my favorite series of all time. And I will say that I am pretty new to Bleach scaling, so I am pretty open to saying that there are a good chance that I could have gotten some things wrong, so just let me know down below. But I did try and make an effort to not only scale the series myself, but also reach out to people in the Bleach scaling community and also watch the videos of Bleach power scalers to learn from them and get ideas of the power. So shout out to Toxic, who I talked to many times about Bleach and Ichigo scaling, and shout out to Manifested Favor and Clyde, both very good Bleach content creators who make really good Bleach videos. With that being said, hope you guys did enjoy. Please do leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You can also join my Discord or follow me on Twitter, both linked down below. Hope you guys all have an amazing day, and peace out.